what's going on YouTube? Chop Salad here. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and my favorite subclass of the Cleric, the Tempest Domain. The gist of this build is to deal burst thunder or lightning damage every single combat encounter, and that's thanks to the Tempest Domain's Channel Divinity feature, Destructive Wrath. And that allows you to roll max damage when you're casting a spell that either deals thunder or lightning damage. So dishing out high damage is really just the bread and butter of the Tempest subclass. And thankfully, the Channel Divinity charges are refilled on a short rest. So meaning by the time that you hit level 6 in Cleric, you're going to be able to use that feature twice per short rest. So really a combination of four times, unless you get a particular item that I'll discuss a little bit later. But 4 times in between a long rest, that's pretty dang good. I've seen other builds that suggest that the Tempest Cleric can be like a frontline warrior donning a two-handed weapon and no shield, but I'm sure there's really merit to it if you look into it more, but I just don't prefer that playstyle. So let's review the gear that I chose that helped my effectiveness on the battlefield. Now, in terms of the headgear, I chose the Browbeaten Circlet. So this gives you an additional +1 to your spell save DC when threatened. Threatened is a condition that you receive when an enemy is close to you, giving you disadvantage on ranged attack rolls, whether that be like like a bow or a spell ranged attack roll. The thinking behind this is just that because we do don heavy armor and a shield, it makes sense for us to be up close and personal. You could go with the Hood of the Weave, which gives you +2 to your spell save or attack roll DC. So I just typically will give the Hood of the Weave to somebody else, like another spellcaster. But I think Threatened is a condition I typically get every single combat encounter. For the Cloak, I chose Cloak of the Weave for its +1 to bonus to spell save DC and attack rolls. The extra benefit is the Absorb Elements. That reaction, it's nice, but I really don't find myself using it very often, especially at higher levels, because as a full caster, I'm typically never going to default to using just a melee attack. Just doesn't seem that worth it to me. The chest, the gloves, and boots, they're all up to you, as the ones that I picked were really just for more survivability. We want a high armor class and any kind of passive boons that are going to help our survivability. An evil playthrough will limit some of the gear available to you as the story progresses, but I was actually fine with uncommon +1 plate armor. Now, in terms of rings, I chose the Ring of the Feywild Sparks. Yeah, I know, I'm not a sorcerer, so I don't get to utilize this ring to its full potential. However, although it's not indicated on the tooltip at the time when I was making this build video, the wearer of this ring actually gets a +1 bonus to the spell save DC. So it's just another way to stack that as high as I can. Now, there are 2 other options that you can go for rings. The first option I went for a second ring would be True Love's Embrace, and I just cast that Warding Bond spell that you get for it on a party member that wears the matching ring. I prefer to use this ring to support like my tank, just so that way they gain resistance to all damage and they get an additional +1 bonus to their AC and saving throws. The drawback is just that when the tank takes damage, or whoever you put this on takes damage, the Warding Bond spell is going to give you, I think, either half that or the same amount. So it can be a trade-off. But I do think as a Cleric, we need to at least be a little bit more supportive, regardless if you're a damage-dealing subclass. Now, the other option that you could go and that I've used is just not use True Love's Embrace and just use the Ring of Protection that you get from Mole if you steal the Druid's Idol from the Grove. It's got the same bonuses as the Cloak of Protection. You get a +1 armor class and saving throws. So pick your poison. For the amulet, I wear the Amulet of the Devout, so that's deep into Act 3. You could use the Spellcrux Amulet in Act 2, so you can replenish a spell slot. But once you get to Act 3, I would recommend that you definitely wear Amulet of the Devout. It gives you a +2 spell save DC, and it grants an additional charge of Channel Divinity, meaning that we can pump out at least 1 more maximum lightning damage, or thunder damage, in battle. I think it actually does replenish on a short rest, so theoretically you could pull off 6 times of max damage throughout your combat encounters before you need to take a long rest. That's awesome. That's really just giving us more for the bread and butter. Now for shields and weapon, the weapon I just chose the Blood of Lathander. It's probably the most iconic Cleric-like weapon in the game. The light passive, it's pretty good against undead and fiends. It can blind them, which is nice. And then there is a 2 to 12 points of healing that'll proc if you're downed once in battle per long rest. That's actually happened to me. It's really just a fail-safe, almost like Death Ward, if you want to consider it like that. And then also you get that Sunbeam spell once per long rest. That's really just icing on the cake. So can't really choose a better weapon in my opinion. And then for the shield, I use Clerics, but there are plenty of other shields that you could use. I use Clerics just because of the +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. But there's an argument to even using like Viconia's shield for the higher AC, an advantage on spell saves. So really, choose whatever you want. I'm not your mom. Overall, my spell save DC with this setup is 22, 23 if threatened. When I'm wearing the Browbeaten Circlet, which I'm pretty happy with. But like I said, that could change if you use the Hood of the Weave. So let's go ahead and see this build in action.
Step forward. So much for peace.